We're here for a great occasion. It's the second annual release of our Prosperity Scorecard, the annual benchmarking study of both social and economic indicators across a global sampling of cities. And I think it's important to understand that the context of the Board of Trade is to look at Toronto as a city builder. We both, we need to have both a great society and a great business community. And that's the lens by which we have been able to look at this, scorecard. The scorecard data allows us to arm ourselves with indicators upon which we can focus to create a better city and to create one that's prosperous for all, a city that leaves no one behind.
And good morning and welcome to everybody here joining us on behalf of the Board of Trade and our 10,000 member organizations, some of whom are with us here this morning. We're very pleased to issue here our latest report, Scorecard on Prosperity 2010. Now, the goal of the scorecard is really to take the measure of Toronto's strengths and weaknesses as a major urban centre competing in the global economy. This year's scorecard, we believe, arrives at a very crucial time, particularly in terms of the early stage that we're in around the global economic recovery and, importantly, in the political life of our city. It is an election year, and the Board of Trade is very actively engaged in the municipal process through a campaign that is around driving the debate and the discussions on the issues that matter most to the city, and importantly, on proposed solutions. All told, we believe that this year's data is much more robust and has certainly given rise to some intriguing themes within our findings. Most of these themes have to do with growth and with the conditions that limit Toronto's ability to grow and compete with other city regions in the global economy. Most importantly, as has been referenced by Merv, there is a perplexing riddle, as we call it, that's embedded in the findings. Namely, it's the discrepancy between Toronto's strong showing in labour attractiveness, second overall, and its weaker 11th place showing on economic performance. If the world's best and the brightest are flocking here to find better opportunities to create personal wealth and improve their standard of living, then shouldn't we be seeing our economic performance follow the same upward path as our labour attractiveness? We should, but we're not. Let's look at some of the specific results. Overall, Toronto has remained in the same location as last year. We're in 4th place, this time among 24 cities instead of 21. Within this placement, Toronto has its share of positives, the largest proportion of foreign-born residents of all 24 metro regions, the highest share of professional employment among all North American metros and Sydney, the highest share of high-tech employment in Canada, and the biggest market of all metros in North America within a day's drive of the dense eastern and big Midwestern US cities. Now let's look specifically at labour attractiveness. Here, Toronto rose from 5th place to 2nd place this year. Not surprising, this is an area of strength for us. And as we can see, we're second only to Barcelona as a global people magnet. In the past decade, we've revitalized our cultural institutions, we're thriving on the festival scene, and we've certainly embraced diversity as a civic value. As a result, highly skilled people from all around the world certainly come to find work here. And interestingly, we continue to receive high marks in a number of key areas, particularly our consistent population growth, our low homicide rate, our affordability, and as I've said, our highly diverse population. Our strength in education is another hallmark of success for us, with over 30% of residents university educated. That's tops in Canada, and in Europe, only Oslo fares better. Now let's look at the economic performance rankings. As I mentioned at the outset, if Toronto is such a magnet for talent, shouldn't its economy follow suit? And unfortunately, it hasn't turned out that way. Toronto's economic performance remains middling or mediocre, placing 11th among the 24 ranked cities. Boston sits at the top with its abundance of universities, colleges, a dominant-based knowledge sector, and a high-tech economy. The most crucial indicators here in the economic section are around GDP growth and our productivity growth. They are the two main drivers of future prosperity. And unfortunately, our poor performance on both indicators is cause for concern. Our GDP growth, our 2.5% average, sets us behind every US metro except Chicago, and the Toronto region was one of the weakest in productivity growth of all metropolitan areas. On that score, our productivity measure is leagues away from the top-ranked Hong Kong and still far behind Boston. So this is the riddle that defines Toronto as measured by the scorecard. In one domain, we're a world leader, but in the other domain, we lag behind our competitors. This discrepancy between our labor attractiveness and our economic performance is not just an idle curiosity. It is a major and pressing public policy and private sector challenge. All together need to be aligned to move this forward. As I'll explain later in more detail, the depth of the discrepancy between the two domains cannot be maintained. We either have to lift up on the economic side, or we're certainly going to risk starting to see erosion on our labor attractiveness. And in order to spur us in the right direction, we're going to need to apply that same collective force on the economic side in the decade ahead as we've applied to the livability in the decade that's passed. There are many reasons why the economic performance is lagging. But this year in the scorecard, we looked at one root cause, and it's a new area, access to capital. We called it the capital lens, and specifically within the capital ecosystem, we looked at venture capital. Despite the affordability of Toronto as a place to do business, we fall very short when it comes to venture capital investment, one of the key determinants of economic prosperity. The capital lens combines 8 of the economy domain indicators most closely linked to capital attractiveness, including productivity, venture capital, and office rents. And it's here that we uncover a critical problem in Toronto's economy. Toronto posts C or D on 5 of the 8 capital lens indicators, and overall this is where Toronto gets its worst result, taking 19th place with a D grading. The stark reality is that the insufficient capital in our economy is choking the innovation and productivity growth. Meanwhile, our most glaring downfall is our embarrassing finish on commuting time. We place dead last out of 19 metro regions. Our 80-minute average round-trip journey to work merits us a D and even lags behind the legendary Los Angeles by 24 minutes. The fact that this indicator includes all modes of transport does not reflect well on our transit system and traffic management. Our region has a critical plan to address this problem, and it's called the Big Move. It's Metrolink's $50 billion plan that includes TTC's Transit City and other important regional projects intended to address gridlock. It's another part of the solution to the riddle. The Big Move is a tremendous plan. It's 80%, it was 80% unfunded, and now with Thursday's provincial budget, it is 90% unfunded. Building out the Metrolinks plan is critical to improving Toronto's productivity. The Board of Trade was the key champion in the creation of Metrolinks, and going forward, we will continue to champion the advancement of this important regional plan. So here's where we finish. Toronto's high ranking masks the troublesome weaknesses that will undermine our ability to maintain our position in future editions of this report. Toronto's poor economic performance is threatening the very livability that we are all so proud of, and it is this riddle desperately in need of solution. Despite our highly diverse, our educated labor force, and our reputation as one of the most livable cities in the world, Toronto must strive to strengthen its economic foundation if it is to make a crucial transition from being a world-class city to a world leader. If we can't lift our economic performance, and if business fails to increase its investment, we will start to see the erosion of our prized labor attractiveness. It is not up to governments alone to deal with this dilemma. Our business community, led here by the Board of Trade, must step up to the plate, and that's exactly what we're doing. We issued our policy report last November, From World Class to World Leader, and it sets out the board's advocacy priorities. As Rick's spoken to, we've now started a task force on access to capital, and this task force is comprised of industry leaders, some of whom are with us here today, to identify pathways for action. Our infrastructure committee will continue their due diligence in terms of advocating and working hard for new transit and transportation infrastructure. We will continue to show our leadership in that area. So I emphasize in conclusion that what's needed is this new, ambitious partnership between business, government, and civil society in order to spark innovation, growth, and wealth creation. Thank you.